Hello friends, welcome to the 9016. On today's episode, I've had the privilege of talking to Silas Kemp, who has just finished up his solo exhibition Violet Dreams on Moray Place. I'm sure most of you listening would have seen his exhibition the other week. Fantastic, one of the best exhibitions I've seen in this city. He's honestly done an amazing job. Lots of work that he's been working on for the past couple of years. It's just fantastic to see it all come together in the capacity that was in, and the way he put it together was just amazing. I'm super proud of him. Please welcome Silas Kemp.
Home Audio Entertainment.
9016 Radio.
The show for artists of all kinds.
Sit down and relax. Enjoy the music.
Oh, okay, Lord, man, it's your turn.
Are you smoking much at the moment?
Yeah.
Fair bit.
Yeah, like I kind of, with smoking, it's like, I don't like feel addicted or anything, because like I used to smoke heavy, like, but then I like quit for months, and then I was like, I just like wanted to see if I was like addicted.
Yeah.
So then I did quit, and like I quit for like a month or something, but like, then I was like, oh, okay, like I'm not actually hooked. So like, now I smoke now, like, just because I like smoking. It's not like a reliable thing.
Right.
Like I don't have like heaps a day. It'll be like a couple a day.
Yeah, I've always felt the same. I don't actually know how to sort of tell when you're addicted with nicotine in particular, because I feel exactly the same. I feel like I've bought packs over the years just to have cigarettes because I like having them, not necessarily because I need them. And I never really smoked that much when I was buying them. Like I'd probably have max like 3, maybe 4 on any given day, with the exception of like the weekend, I suppose. But I never thought I was ever addicted to it. And I did the same thing. I got to a point where I was like, well, fuck, am I addicted or not? I'll just stop buying cigarettes and see like if it turns out I do like need one, quote unquote. And yeah, I just stopped buying them, and I was like, yep, sweet.
Good.
Like, don't need them.
Yeah.
And I mean, occasionally, of course, like when you go out, there's going to be one offered to you, or you're going to ask someone for one at some point, just because alcohol and cigarettes, they like each other. But
There's no better combo, mate.
Can't beat it. Yeah, it never felt like I actually needed to have a cigarette once I'd done that, and now I'm pretty much on that.
Name a better duo.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I just love cigarettes. Like they're just
nice.
I just love them, man.
Yeah.
Like, they're so cool. And they're just like so nice.
It's just nice to have something to do.
Yeah,
nice to just like
have
a break and have a cigarette, or just like there's something about having in your hand. You just
especially being like kind of fidgety, like as an artist as well. You're like always kind of like
need
got
something
your brush,
in your hand.
and it's just like you're always kind of like it's just it's interesting because like it's just nice to be able, like, the end of the day or something, or you just go for a break, you know, and just like take a load off, mate. It's all good.
Something about it. I still haven't really put my finger on it, because like it's nice. I think a lot of smokers would probably say they like the taste of them, but it's typically not something that tastes nice. You know, you wouldn't say that cigarettes are like a nice tasting thing, but they are in their own way. Just there's like the essence of it. I don't know what it is about them, because I must like the taste of it, but I feel like I don't know how to describe that. It's like with a beer. Like, I love having a beer, but I wouldn't say to someone that's never had a beer that it tastes good, you know. Same with like a cigarette. I wouldn't be like, oh my God, this is the best tasting thing you'll ever have, because it's not. But I guess it's just one of those things you sort of just adapt to, and it just becomes like, whew,
it's good.
Quite nice.
Yeah. I just love beer. Like, I mean, it's just, to me, it's like a great tasting thing. It's like, you know, I would prefer a beer over like nice martinis or anything.
Sure.
Just like, of course it's an occasion thing, you know, but like just having a cold beer is just so refreshing, man.
When would you have had your first beer, do you reckon? And did you reckon you liked it the first time?
Yeah, I loved, because like
straight off
all
the
my old man, everyone used to drink beer, like the men drank beer. So when I was a kid, I'd be like, Dad, you know, can I have a beer? And if I like worked for him for like, you know, on a Saturday, like did a good hour or something, he'd always give me a beer. Oh, so like when I was probably to have my first beer.
Oh, that's crazy like that you liked it from the get-go. How old do you think you would have been?
Maybe like 8 or 9, maybe.
Fuck, that's crazy.
I actually had my first, I got drunk the first time when I was 4.
No shit.
And that was like at my parents went to like a friend's house to watch the footy, and it was kind of like a big like big night,
Yeah.
bit of a party. And I was like I was young, I was 4 years old. So I was like going around and like drinking everyone's, like going around the couches, drinking everyone's like wine and
Yeah.
like drinking the dregs and stuff.
Fuck.
It was so funny. It's like, just keep like, just loved it.
Holy
Just loved
shit.
drinking wine. And I was like,
Yeah.
everyone's like, where's the wine gone? Like, I swear I had like half a glass here.
And you
then like,
you were drinking it at 4 and it was fine. Like you liked it.
yeah. And then like,
Fuck.
I was just like, got real drunk. And then Dad's like, what's going on with Silas? Like he's jumping around, he's having a good old time. And it turns out, I just got drunk, and then he's just like, oh, that's where the wine's going. And then he had to carry me home,
Jesus.
just across the road.
Yeah.
Carried me home and spewed up everywhere, and then went to bed. Woke up dusty and went to primary school.
Fucking hell. What a what a poor introduction to alcohol. That's crazy that you could actually drink it at 4 years old.
Yeah, it was just lovely. I would love the taste of it.
What kind of wine was it? Do you remember?
It was white wine.
Shit. Fuck, man. I remember, just going back to the beer
Sad.
thing, I remember my first beer being disgusted by it.
Real?
And I feel like that's pretty typical. Yeah. I had to train myself to like beer.
Really?
Shit, yeah. I always had, like, old man always gives you a taste of it every here and there, and never liked that.
Yeah.
But when you sort of come into drinking culture, like when I started drinking in high school, that was just RTDs and that sort of thing, which
Yeah.
I think is fairly typical for people
Sundays.
when they start. Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
Which is an easy intro into the drinking world. But it wasn't like I must have just started drinking beers because they were cheaper, and I guess you try all these things, parties and stuff. But I never liked beer from the
Yeah.
get. And I think like the beers that I was having were more like, Spates and like light lager beers rather than
Yep.
what I like now, which is, IPAs and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But that was a slow transition. I had to pretty much train my palate to like beer.
Yeah.
I don't know why I was committed on getting myself to like it, but
Yeah.
yeah. I just
And it
find
was
it
like,
interesting.
and then like I'd get older, and then it'd just be like, Mum would be like, hey, have a bit of Spates and mix with a bit of lemonade. So it wasn't like,
Right.
But like, I think, it was the whole idea of it.
Right.
Rather than, because especially when you get into teenage years and you want to go party, and it was the whole idea, like, you get a box and you
Yeah.
go to Sammy's social or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
go to like random house parties,
Yeah.
and like, just, it was I think it was the idea of it, like
Yeah.
going out at night.
Yeah,
wild
fuck
with
yeah.
your friends.
Man, that's so crazy. That's so crazy that you could drink it that young. Fuck, I don't remember when my
Loved it.
first beer was, or like first taste of alcohol. But I definitely don't remember liking it. That's so interesting. Fuck.
I think my first proper beer would have had to been a Spates as well.
Oh, I
Like,
think when you live in Dunedin,
Spates and Stella Artois, man, was the
the
thing.
go-tos. Yeah. It's so weird going back to Spates now, because been so like craft beer heavy recently, and that's what I like in a beer, is like a craft beer IPA kind of hoppy beer.
Yeah, exercise
Going
your
back to
palate.
Spates, it's kind of like water to me. It just doesn't have that thing to it.
Yeah.
It just tastes like a student party. It tastes like a Sunday morning, which is just like doesn't appeal to me
Yeah,
anymore.
it's interesting, Spates. Some people just like kind of go off it after trying all these new beers. But
Yeah.
I feel like I like craft beer and stuff, but I'd never turn down like a good old glass. of
Good old
Spates.
glass of
Good
Spates.
bottle of Spates,
It's
It's
so
just
funny, man. It's one of those Dunedin classics, eh? I've
Yeah.
never really liked it, but I think those beers are probably what people are drinking younger anyway, just because they are a wee bit like on an untrained palate, or someone having beer for the first time. It's
and they're
like,
cheap.
yeah,
They're
you
good
wouldn't
grog.
Yeah, exactly. You wouldn't want to give, I guess, a super strong hoppy beer to someone for their first taste of beer, because that's going to be even worse than trying Spates for the
it's
first
quite,
time.
Yeah, it's a bit tougher. But again, some people would like it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, each their own, I suppose. But yeah, no, I definitely had to train myself to like beer. That wasn't something that was fun from the get-go. So tell me, man, after your exhibition is closed, how do you feel about it all? Did it go down the way you'd planned? Any post sort of thoughts? Anything you would have changed, or pretty happy with it?
I used all the tools I could get at my disposal. So like getting the space was like really tough. It was like trying to get a space was like no one, especially after COVID, there was so many spaces, but no one wanted to rent out their space.
Right.
Like I was trying to get places on like George Street, like just like those empty shops,
Bit more
and
foot traffic areas.
and like Courts and Cutlers, I like gave them a call. One of the ladies, like, you know, she actually rang up the guy that owned a couple of the spaces, and he's like, you know, how much is he offering? He's like 300, and he's like we just turned down someone who offered $1,000
Right.
just for a week. He's like, they're just like, no one wants to have them open for some reason. I was like, oh, that's weird. Like, that's money right there, okay,
Right.
for 1 week.
Yeah.
All you have to do is I turn the power on. But yeah, for some reason, the owners just didn't want a bar of it. So
Interesting.
yeah, it became like a bit of a mission. And then Matt Galloway, one of my lecturers at Polytech, he had a friend who is a designer, and they've got a space up in Albell Chambers, which is just above Albar.
On
Right beside
Stewart Street.
Carousel. Lower Stewart Street. And so he's like, yeah, I've got a space for you. There's like a few artists up there, but they've got a room there that you can have the space. I was like, mean. Like, this is like
Perfect.
like 2 weeks out
Yeah.
from the exhibition. I was like, I need to do this ASAP. So went that day to check the space out. Walked upstairs. It was like real weird. Like, had to walk up like 3 flights of stairs and then walk through these weird rooms and then into this studio space. As soon as I walked in, I was like, no.
Straight away.
It was so bad. It was like tiny, and there was like no good lighting.
Yeah.
It was just like this crapper spot. I was just like, just walked in, walked out, and I said, like, I don't want this
Yeah.
space. And like, plus because my brother that day, he hit me up. He's like, oh, I heard you need a space and stuff, and he's like, I've got a mate, Nick James,
Yeah.
and Nick James said he can suss you with a spot. And it turns out Nick James is, you know, Chris James's son. Chris James, he owns like just a ridiculous amount of properties in the Dunedin centre. And so Nick James basically just like, you know, come through. I've got a space on Murray Place for you. So I went and meet him the next day, and he's like, yeah, you know that Data place that we space. It's called Data.
Sure.
It's
Yeah,
right beside Estelle Flowers.
Yep.
And he's like, yeah, you can have this space, man. I was like, oh, sweet, like, this is good. Like,
Oh,
this
down like George Street in.
Murray Place, like right opposite Rialto.
Oh, true.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
sure.
like a little
yeah.
kind of gallery shop thing.
Yep.
It was empty. He's like, yeah, you can have this space, man. I was like, sweet, because I'm trying to take anything I can get.
Yeah, for
right
sure.
now.
It's getting to the pressure point. Yeah.
And that was a good spot. So, and then we were checking out the spot, and he's just like, you know, how big are your paintings? I was like, pretty big, man, but like I've got to make do, you know,
Yeah.
whatever I can get. He's like, oh, I got a space across the road, and I was like, oh, sweet, let's go check it out. Went across the road, upstairs,
Yeah.
above Dog with Two Tails, and that's like an old theatre. And he's like, yeah, you can have this one if you want as well. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like
Way
the
better.
perfect spot.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's like, yeah, have it, boom. Traded him
yeah.
a painting, and the space was perfect, fitted the paintings like
Absolutely.
really well.
Yeah.
And then so I got them up, and then the next issue was like stressing me. It was lighting, because like I wanted the open night to not be just like an exhibition really light. I wanted it to be a vibe. You know, you kind of walk in and it's kind of like low light. The paintings, the only thing that's lit up are the paintings, and people can drink and yarn, and like a low light, a comfortable light. Which kind of like the lighting is so important because it separates kind of it's kind of like, you know, you walk into a gallery or something, it's really well lit, it's quite bright, and you walk around. But like for an open night, the whole idea of it being at night as well, and like having alcohol and stuff is like, for me, I kind of wanted it to be more of a show.
Yeah.
And that was kind of important to get the lighting right. So I went to Mitre 10, like got these little lights, but they were crap because you couldn't adjust. It was just like a blue light. It was two lights, so it glared off the paintings. And then at Polytech, they had these lights, and I was like, oh, can I borrow these lights? And she's like, yeah, I got 7 of them. These like big ass
perfect,
lights.
yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I'll grab them, took them to the space, lit them up, and you could change the light from like a warm light to a cool light. So for
true.
each painting, you could like adjust it.
Didn't
some
don't
paintings
affect the colour too much.
Yeah, because like some of the paintings had like blues and cool colours, and some of the paintings had like a warm colour, so you could like adjust that lighting.
So did you have to
for
do
it
that quite a
sync.
bit?
Yeah, so
Oh, I
that was
didn't
like
notice
took a
that.
day to just like kind of adjust the lighting for each painting. And it was mean, like it just worked. Like I was so stoked on how the lights like just sunk into the paintings, because like the glare was like a big stress for me. And then it worked. It was mean. The exhibition went really well, smoothly, good
Yeah,
people,
I
good
thought so too.
vibes. Yeah, like it was just the crowd that really kind of made it,
100%.
what it was.
Yeah.
And, it was
Like you
just a good
say,
space.
it was a show
Yeah.
more than it was just, there's something about walking into a gallery where there's just no one around, or there's just like a couple of people looking. It's really echoey and atmospheric, like
Yeah.
it was when I came and saw you the other day. Like that feel, that's totally different to
Yeah.
coming into an opening like
Yeah.
what you was. I think that turned out really well. And I remember our conversation we had a few months ago. You were telling me what you had in your head for how he wanted it to turn out. And as soon as I walked in there, I was like, that's exactly how I'd pictured, like how you were
That's me.
explaining it to me. So I was like,
That's
that's
what
why
I
I was so overwhelmed by it. I was like, fuck, you've actually been able to put your idea and execute it,
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, the execution is so important for
Yeah.
a show, especially for like a first exhibition.
100%.
I really believe in doing what you're going to do it full pie, don't half-ass
Yeah,
it.
so that,
like,
that really is your first show of any kind.
yeah.
Yeah, you've had works up in sort of minor
Yeah,
stuff,
I had a couple paintings up in the Otago Society in the railway station. Had 2 up there like last year.
Yeah,
Good people and stuff. But it just wasn't my vibe again. Like it wasn't. I didn't want that.
it's tricky
for
in
my
those
art.
communal spaces though. You're really
Yeah.
limited, like pretty much
Yeah, and
completely limited
and
to
they
what you
were
can do
like
with
tight. They were tight. They had like other paintings below it, which
Yeah.
didn't match the color
it.
at
Yeah,
all. So like
just didn't have the
but
effect.
again, like you want to be able to complement your paintings, and complementing your paintings means that the vibe and the whole space, the kind of that atmosphere has to be. It has to be atmosphere that can complement your paintings rather than drain it or suck it away.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like when I walk into a gallery, I kind of always just like walk around really fast, skim the paintings. But like it's just like it's all up to personal like preference,
Yeah.
really, like how you want it to be.
Definitely.
But like to me, I knew I knew what I wanted. I knew I had to do this right
Yeah, definitely. And
because
like,
just my own fulfillment.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you've got to get it the way you've got in your head. Otherwise, it just doesn't have that feel for you. If you're not happy with it, how can you expect other people to be happy with it? But I think the thing with those like community galleries and that sort of thing is like they're a good platform for like beginner artists to get their work out, because you pay a small fee. You're part of the group. You can exhibit works whenever they have exhibitions, and that's awesome to be able to have some sort of consistency and be able to put your work into stuff all the time. Because like you've obviously had like the paintings that were in the exhibition of yours, you've had those for a couple of years, so it's been a really big build up for you to actually get something together. And granted, once it's all together, it's totally worth it, and like you get it the way you want, and it's amazing to see that. But at the same time, it's you want to have that consistency as well, because like you're on the map now. So like now you've got to be thinking, what am I going to do next? How soon is it going to be? As I don't want to leave it too long. So yeah, there's ups and downs to it. It's good. It's good. Those art communities are good for getting your stuff out there consistently, and that's what's been helpful for me. I haven't really been able to. To be fair, I shouldn't say I haven't been able to, because I haven't really been trying. But like getting something of my own is quite hard, and as you say, like looking for a space for so long, looking for the perfect spot doesn't come easy. You got to know people, and you got to make sure that the space can work for you. And like those other places you looked at, well, they sounded more like they were workspaces rather than they were like gallery spaces.
Yeah, the first one at Elbow Chambers was definitely just like a little studio.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. Like
I love
this
that.
is 2 years.
Straight
This is
away.
like 1.5 year, 2 years
Yeah.
worth of work of like paintings that I've been
Yeah.
working on, like chipping away at. And like I could have had like an exhibition last year, but I knew like I was like, these paintings aren't finished. Like even the ones I did like 2 years ago was sitting there. I was like, it's not finished. Like paintings, like take it. Some paintings, you can be like, bang, it's done.
Yeah.
But then like other paintings, you just got to like kind of add bits. Keep it sitting there and just like add bits. And that's what I kind of did. So I had like most of them done by like probably like most of them done by like halfway through this year. And they were just kind of all sitting there, and I was like, yeah, that needs a little bit there, needs a little bit there. So it wasn't really about, it's not really about finishing works to perfection. It's about finishing them until they're finished.
Yeah,
because your ash will sit on them forever, and they can always be perfected and
Yeah,
added.
I was going to ask you about that.
Just
'cause-
knowing that's finished.
Yeah,
it's
right.
Like, that's finished.
So
It's not perfect, but it's finished.
yeah, and I suppose
And you're
only
gonna
you
move
are
on.
going to know that when something's finished, of course. But yeah, I was going to ask you because of some of the pieces that were in the exhibition were quite old.
Yeah.
You've obviously added now that from what you've said, you've added a bit to some of the old ones as well. Like I can't imagine that. Like personally, I sort of get sick of some of my paintings after like a month. You know, couldn't imagine after a couple of years. So like, is that sort of what you had to do to get them ready for now? Is just sort of
so that was another tough thing as well, because you move forward in life. So like your ideas and everything grows and moves in a kind of forward motion. So it was like, I felt
especially
like
when you're young, you know, 2 years of time is a big span of time to have a mindset change.
So if you look at one of the first big ones I did, and then compare that one to the most recent one I did in the exhibition, like before the exhibition, like when I had them all lined up, the newest one I did compared to the oldest, they were just completely different.
Yeah.
But like that kind of was good, because then I could have them all laid out, and then I could go, okay, well, I can like bring this one up a wee bit and like put something in here and like add a couple things. Like one of the old ones, I added like the ballerina. I brought in a model, took a photo of the model, added that. So it's also kind of interesting, because you can actually work on the past and like kind of just play. It's all just like playing with old ideas and just like, how can I mix that with some of the new ideas I'm playing with?
Yeah. Do you ever do too much with it? Because I
I
suppose
don't know.
like,
It's sandboxing, man. Like this whole exhibition, all these paintings were just like a big sandbox for me. They all looked different, and it was just playing. Like I was just spewing my ideas out, like everything.
Yeah.
I just wanted to get it out and onto the canvas. It was just like sandbox. Like that's why they all looked completely different to one another. And now I'm like, all those paintings, I'm like, you know,
done with them.
I was over them like months ago. I'm just like, now I'm focused on like the next one.
Yeah.
And like now I want to make it bigger and better, and you know.
And it might be hard for you to explain this in with your own perception on your work, but like, do you think that the stuff that you've got in mind now is going to be quite different from the stuff that was on display there? Like, do you think you're taking sort of a new route?
There's you know, there's a lot of kind of dialogue and context in the old paintings that are just based on how I was feeling at the time and what I was going through.
Yeah.
So like now my ideas and like it's a lot of my ideas are kind of just fueled by what I'm doing in life.
Right.
And like what I'm going through or whatever's happening. But in a aesthetic point of view, like there's definitely a lot of styles that I'm gonna stick with.
Yeah.
But just kind of fine tune it and kind of point it in a direction and like a more, you know, in my opinion, just a better direction for me, and that what suits me. It's like it's identity.
Yeah.
You know, it's like finding your own identity. But then there's this other thing. It's like this whole idea of painters need to, you know, paint their paintings quite similar, so people can be like, oh, that painting's that artist, because they do everything in that same style. And I find that really tough, because like at some points I want to paint like some really like, you know, Renaissance like style, and then at other times I just want to like graph, and then other times I just want to paint some realism, other times I just want to like sketch and just like, you know, just get real messy with it. And that's kind of like a bit of a, it's kind of like
that's totally at your discretion,
and it's kind of conflicting in a way, because I'll paint something with like really high detail, and then I just kind of go, oh, like I just want to mess it up, you know?
Right.
So I like go just paint all over it, and it's just like kind of, that gives me that satisfaction. So it's just like those two ideas, like that's where I'm at right now. I'm trying to like paint paintings with like Renaissance, because I love that age, like the classical period and stuff. I just love that kind of stuff. And then I've also like loving my own modern ideas and everything, and I'm just trying to like find a middle ground between those two, and it's like a conflicting dance between the two.
Sure.
It's just like going through history and kind of just like finding ideas and kind of like just doing me, you know. And it's just like, it is what it is, and you just gotta put your ideas into paintings. And like that's what the painting, it was called Rebirth. It had Rebirth on it, but the painting was actually called Check Your Pants. And that was the one with me when I was like in the checkered pants. And that was kind of, that painting was, it means like sometimes you just got to fly through your past, fly through your mind, and just like pick out ideas and just chuck it on paper.
Right.
You know, that's like how I communicate. You know, sometimes I just got so much on my mind. It's just like that gives me peace to just put it on paper.
Right, that's so interesting. It would have been cool to hear that perspective from you. Like, I can picture the work in my head now, but actually looking at that and being like, okay, I understand that a bit more now. Do you think that meaning plays a lot in your work? Like, do you think every piece that was in there has some story to it of yours?
Everything, or most of my paintings usually have about 4 or 5 stories, because when I paint a painting, I'll have an idea and I'll kind of play with an idea, and like whether it's what's happening in the world or what's happening with me, I'll kind of put it on the painting, and then like I'll add something else, and then when it's finished, I'll have it on the wall and I'll sit there and just stare at it for like a couple of hours. You know, I'll just sit there and look at it. I'll wake up in the morning, like, because my studio is in my room.
Right.
So I'll lie in bed. I find it tough to get up because I'll just sit there and stare at the paintings for ages and just like kind of come up with different stories. And that's like the great thing about art, is you can make your own story.
Yeah.
So like one of them, you know, well, most of them I have about 4 different storylines. Like that means that means that. It's fun. It's a game, you know. You make up your own story because creativeness just never ends.
Does that limit you in any way? This is sort of coming from my perspective on that point in particular. Do you find like sometimes you want to paint but you can't because you don't have an idea? Or do you think you always have ideas that you can go to and put something down? Like, do you ever paint with no intention? I guess is my question.
That's with no intention. That's when I start doing gestural drawings. Okay. So like I'll have my A3 book, and I just like, I need to put pen on paper. I just get charcoal out and just start drawing. Right. And just like whatever comes in my head, I'll just draw it, bang, 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 bang. And then like that usually it kind of
ignites something. Yeah,
it just like ignites, and it kind of like, you know, waters an idea, and then you just grab that and take that into the next page and add this, add that.
Wow, okay. Yeah.
And like whatever you might have seen something, or you might have an idea in your head of, you know, how you view the world. Like a lot of my paintings based on how I view society and the world. Right. Not many people ask me what they mean, but like, you know, I guess that's all right.
I feel like it's a question that's sort of lost in our generation, or at least in like millennials, because like personally, when I don't always look for meaning in art. Like art is purely visual for me. Like I know when I like something or not, purely based on that first impression. And I'm usually never asking, what does this mean? I'm taking it for face value a lot of the time, which potentially is the wrong approach, of course, for someone that definitely, like yourself, there's definitely stories and things in the paintings, but it's hard to try and incorporate that. And it's good to hear, I guess, people's interpretations, but a lot of, for me, is just purely what it looks like. And I think a lot of people probably feel that same way. Like they just know that they like that by looking at it, rather than go like, oh, well, why have you done this or that, you know?
Yeah, and I love that as well, like so much. Like some people, they ask me, you know, what do you mean? I just kind of give them a real kind of shallow answer, because I want them to figure it out for themselves and make their own story. Yeah. And like, you know, I always, everything comes from an idea. But at the end of the day, like when I look at a painting, like when I'm working on a painting, it's coming to like, you know, like I'm getting quite close to finishing. I'll just go, you know, ask myself just like, is it done? Is it finished? Does it need more colour? Does it need more this? And then it goes from meaning to just your own view and just how you want it to look. And it's just like, is it finished? Is it good? Is it bad? You know, does it need more of that? And then, it just comes down to like, you can either have meaning, or you can just, you know, have face value, aesthetically pleasing paintings, you know. And that's, you know, the glory of it. You know, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's the mindset that you need to keep as an artist, is that you do have that freedom, and no one should ever tell you that something is this way or that way, you know. But like I say, you want, you know, a lot of the time you want people to give you their interpretation of what it is to them. I've had that quite often without asking for it. Had people tell me what they see in something.
Yeah, I love when I get that.
Yeah, because it's interesting to get a different
I
perspective.
love when people come up to me and go, I see this, I see that, this is what I think. You know, and like that is satisfying for me. That means like when I hear like that, it's like someone's reading a book. Yeah. You know, and that's like the whole idea is like when you look at one of my paintings, you read it and you make whatever you want out of it. And it's kind of annoys me when people look at a painting and be like, what are you trying to say here? I'm like, well, you don't read a book and then ask the author what it was about. Right. You know, you can do whatever you want. You can ask for my perspective, like fine. Yeah. But like, you know, just just be creative and make your own idea up. Like it's
Sure, yeah. Do you ever get annoyed at that though? Because I feel like when people sort of make their own view on something, or they say, "Oh, this sort of does this mean this, or this reminds me of this, or oh, I can see that that looks like such and such." Surely there's points at which someone's made a thought or a theory about something, and it is like the polar opposite to what you imagined it. Have you ever come across that before?
I've never, maybe. Like, I've definitely had people, a few good artist friends come through and be like, they'll ask me what it means. I'm like, well, you tell me what you think, and then they'll say something like completely like, what I wasn't intending, but it was kind of, it was on the right track, but they've just gone they've made something up from themselves that was different rather than not what I was intending, but different to my perspective. And I kind of find that interesting because it's like, oh man, that's interesting. I didn't think of that. That's like another story. Like I said, I can make up 4 or 5 stories out of a painting. They're just showing me their story, and and they'll say, "Oh, is that what you're trying to say?" I'm like, "No, it's not what I was trying to say." But that's what you're saying.
That's your interpretation.
interpretation.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
And then I'm like, yeah, this is my story. This painting. And that's
sure.
the fun of it. You can play with stories. It's
and I
poetry,
suppose,
man.
I suppose if someone looked at a painting of yours and wanted to buy it, for example, they're probably going to buy it based on a story that they've made for themselves about it. Would you rather someone, purchase something off you based on that sole decision that they've come up with a story from that painting of their own and don't actually know the deeper meaning, or would you want everyone to know what it is you were trying to achieve?
I definitely prefer them to buy it because of their own and how it connects to them, because that gives me so much satisfaction. Just to make someone else happy or make it connect to someone else.
Yeah, that's pretty powerful.
And that makes me happy. Me actually putting paint on a canvas and me just making something and that connecting to someone else is the ultimate goal.
Yeah, right. That's art.
Yeah, that is just it's so powerful. You can change someone's life through a painting.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's a crazy.
And
thought.
I don't mean that in a bad way, because there was a story my friend told me. He's like, there was a guy who was just going through so much tough times in his life. He was so depressed, and he was like a photographer. And this really inspired me. I don't remember the full details, but it was pretty inspiring. But this guy was going through so much crap in his life. He just didn't even know what meaning was. He was a middle-aged guy, didn't know what meaning was. He just kind of wandered through, and he was pretty depressed. And he was a photographer. And then he came across this painting, and as soon as he saw it, he just lit up, and he was just spoke to him, and basically it changed his life around, and he was just so inspired by this painting that he saw that it made him so happy. And he didn't buy it, but it was just he saw something in it that really kind of gave him some fulfillment and answers to his own life,
right? And
it just kind of changed him. And it just turned him into a happy guy, and just really gave him satisfaction. And from there on, he was just it's another perspective of life, and that's so cool because when you can touch someone through a piece of painting, a piece of artwork in any sort, music. That's why a lot of people make music, is to connect with other people, and it's the same with painting. It's when you see someone see your art and they have a smile, or that's gratification right there, and that's why I love doing it, because it brings me happiness to see other people connect to my art.
That's really powerful, and that sort of goes to show how similar we all are, and it's so easy to get caught up in your own head, and you think you know what it is that's going to make you feel better. And a lot of times I think people in those circumstances, I definitely can't speak for anyone in this situation, but I feel just in sort of some personal experience have sort of realised that sometimes the only thing that makes me feel better is having time to be sad, and sometimes you feel like you're the only person that can actually make yourself feel better or a certain way. And the fact that someone can paint something or make something that resonates on that personal level with someone for them to turn their life around, in the case of this guy, is kind of a strange thought. You think we're all so unique, and we are all so unique in that way. But that sort of goes to show that we are similar and we get
Yeah.
inspiration from similar things. It just got to
It's
tweak
like
it to the
it's like a
individual.
connection of hearts.
Yeah,
You know, you connect to someone's heart through a painting. It's the door. You know, you could look at it that way.
yeah, right.
And you know, you just connect hearts, and like that's warming, and that's humanity, man.
Yeah,
Humans, we're
exactly,
designed to connect
exactly.
because the only thing we've got to give is our love. You know,
Yeah.
and when you can do that through art, you know, that's pretty cool.
Had you had any responses similar to that at the exhibition? Like people that had bought them, they sort of said it resonated with them, or was it purely, again, just that sort of face value?
Most people that bought a painting just loved it and just said, "Yeah, I love it. I want it."
Yeah.
You know, but the most gratification I got was just everyone that came and the smiles, and people would just lit up. Like I really just want to make an atmosphere where people walk into a whole different world. They
Yeah.
walk into, you know, a mindset,
I think you
and they
definitely
come in
achieved
and they're
that.
mind blown, and they're got like this facial expression
Mm.
that they're just like happy, and it's just like that's why I do it because
fuck,
like I
man.
have friends like yourself and like
Yeah.
people coming through,
Yeah.
and they're just like stoked to be there, and they just like gives they go home. They didn't go to an exhibition. They
Yeah.
went to a show,
Definitely.
and
yeah.
it's almost a performance in a way, and it's just like it's nice to be able to put a smile on someone's face,
Absolutely. I think,
sweep them off their feet.
yeah. And those kind of events are so inspiring too. Like I bet a lot of people saw that. I know I definitely, myself included, went up and saw that and thought, fuck, like this is how it's supposed to be done. This is what we should all be striving to achieve. This is where our work should be ending up, whatever platform it needs to be presented in the way it's supposed to be presented, and it sort of kicked me into gear about the fact that you shouldn't half-ass things, because I've been half-assing a lot of stuff in my life and sort of just deciding that things are done sooner than they should actually be done, or just getting stuff out there for the sake of getting it out there.
Yeah.
Like I think it's quite admirable to see what you've done. You've been able to hold on to work for such a long period of time. Granted, there's been tweaks here and there, but to be able to present stuff that you've had for like 2 years, personally, that's like, fuck, that's crazy. I couldn't imagine presenting anything like, I guess depending on how much work you were producing in between the time between like an old painting and a new exhibition. I just can't imagine that.
Yeah,
And it's
like,
just,
you just got to look at it like the painting lives its own life.
yeah,
It's not about, that's how I look at it. So it's like, it's not about me getting it out there. It's about when the painting is ready to start breathing. So it's like working on your own project as you're working on a life force. Like the paintings, when you put it out there, they're off into the world. They're living their own life. So it's like, it's not me that needs to get it out there. It's the painting that needs to get out there, but I won't put it out until that painting is ready.
right. And
You
that's
don't- you
purely
don't-
just
you
the
don't pull
connection
a baby
you...
out of the womb until it's ready to pull
Right.
it out, and then it starts breathing its
Yeah,
life.
that's a good analogy. But I suppose only you're going to know that, It's
Yeah.
just that's the connection you have with the work.
Mhm.
Like, and that's what's interesting, and something that I personally can't do is add to things later on. I think in your case, like you paint pretty flat, so it is reasonably easy for you to go over something later on. But yeah, it's funny.
I mean, you
to
could still
think
do that
that-
with your thick words.
Oh, definitely could,
yeah.
definitely could. But I can't, mentally can't do that. Like,
But
like,
you'll like get there. You've only just started.
yeah, for sure. But I don't know. I think it's more, in my case, it's more like the short span of time that it takes me to finish something is kind of what it's about. I don't want to have to add something the next week, because next week me could be different
Yeah.
from yesterday's me, when I started it. So what it's about for me is really just like that time and place,
Yeah.
what's happening then and there.
It's just like another style of
Yeah,
doing things.
and I have gone back to old stuff, but yeah. Anyway, I was going to say
it's kind of like George Condo.
Yeah.
Like he, like a lot of his works is just based on a feeling at that point in time. And that's it. That's him right there in that moment in time. That's how he was feeling. And it's just like a different way of doing art.
Does he finish his paintings fairly quickly?
Yeah,
I've seen
I watched
him
his
in
week
action,
doco.
but it was only him doing big, like oil pastel, sort of just black on white paintings
was
which
that
looked-
wee half an hour doco. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so cool to watch.
That
Just like
pseudo space
it's
is really nice.
It's so satisfying. To watch
really
him with
satisfying.
That, with that, oil
But some of his
pastel.
more intricate paintings, like the stuff, those really abstract faces that he does, didn't realize he came out with those so quickly. Like it's pretty impressive to get
It's
something like
amazing.
that out in a day, you know.
It's just practice.
Yeah. And I suppose once you've got techniques down, you can just sort of go full whack.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to your point before, where you were saying, you know, you've got to wait until the painting's finished. It's interesting when you're in the creative point, or when you're in the process, I mean to say, how, I mean, you're the only one, obviously, that's going to define when your painting is finished, but someone else might not want anything onto it, you know. Someone might see a painting and might like it if it didn't have that bit there. Not saying specifically that anyone would say that, but in some cases, I'm sure someone has looked at any given painting and say, "I like that if it didn't have that little bit on them."
I've had that. Yeah.
You've had people say that to you?
The check your pants painting.
Mm.
I had a person come in and say, I would have definitely bought it if it didn't have the rebirth graph on it. And I was kind of like, I was like, yeah, whatever.
Right.
I don't really
Tough.
care. It's not your painting.
Yeah.
I paint it the way I want to paint it.
Yeah.
And that actually same person ended up buying it.
Oh, really?
So it was like, it's okay. Like, everyone's got their own opinions.
Yeah.
And that's fine. But like, when I hear that, I don't really mind. It's okay. It's just kind of, there's a side of me that gets annoyed. There's a side of me that goes, screw you.
Yeah.
But like, there's a side of me that's just like, it's all good. Like, just whatever. Everyone's doing their own thing. Everyone likes what they like, and I would prefer people be honest.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. That is quite ironic though that they still purchased it. Not to say, obviously it wasn't something that was detrimental in their decision making, but still, yeah, interesting to get that feedback, and that sort of, it is almost an insult in a way, I feel. If someone's saying, "Oh, I love it, but if it didn't have that," it's kind of like, well, that is obviously, like in your case, that's something that's pretty heavily consistent in your work, It's like, if it doesn't have that, it's almost not a Silas in a way.
Exactly, because it's like like what I was saying before, when like the painting's breathing on its own. It's like saying, I wish that person didn't have that moustache.
Whoa, right.
It's like, that's that man. He can do whatever he wants to do. Let him have the moustache. Like,
Fuck, that's such an
That's
interesting
who he is.
perspective, man. That's so interesting. I think,
and like, it's not a bad thing, but it's like that's that person. He's like he's got his own personality and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever.
when
Do what you wanna
do you
do.
just have like a gut feeling? Like I don't know how to really ask anyone this question, but like to know when something's finished, like the works that you've had for a long time and the ones that you've ended up tweaking later. Was there a point in between, you adding to it and when you finished it at the time that you thought it was finished then? Like, do they almost, to put it in the metaphor, come back alive?
So like, there's a painting that died and then kind of.
Yeah, or not necessarily die, but like you thought it was ready to go, but then a year later,
Yeah.
you decided it wasn't.
There was a painting I did. It was on the end. It was called Ignorance is Bubbles. Did you remember that one? It was like gold. It was like gold. Had the little Tahiti girl in it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that one was in the studio in my room for ages, and I was just like, I did it. I was like, yeah, this is how it's gonna look. I envisioned it. Bang, did it. I was like, this is not working. It's like, I don't know what to do with it. It was sitting there for months, and it was just wasn't working. I actually hated it. And then I added it was just the colour. I added the hearts and the skulls, and that's all I did. And it just went boom to life. And I was like, that's it, done.
Whoa.
And it was just like, it can take months before you know exactly what it needs.
Right.
Man,
that's so interesting.
But when you do know what it needs, like some paintings doesn't go like that. Every painting's different. But like in that case, it was just like I put that there, bang, it's done. That's exactly what it needed. And that's another thing. It's like you don't want to overdo it.
Yeah, I think that's what I fear about that process, is being like, I really like it as it is, but it could look really nice with this, and then butchering it.
Yeah, my advice to that would just to be go for it. because when you're just starting out as an artist, it doesn't actually matter. Just overdo it, overdo all of them, and it doesn't matter, because like once you got to know your boundaries, you got to know your line, but to know that line, you've got to really push it. So like just sandbox and just play, because it's all play. But like that'll define your works better, because then the next one, you've got a better idea and a better understanding about yourself and about the painting. Okay, I can push it far, but I know not to push it this far, or it's like, so that's why I was just like, with my first ones, I just keep going, overdid most of them.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's all good, because now I know where the line is, and each painting's different. Some of them will need to be...
That's true. You figure it out
different, but it's just like, my advice is just definitely go for it. Don't be worried about what you think it needs to be perfect, because, we've got a full lifetime. So it's
for
like,
sure.
It's all just practicing and just doing whatever you want to do.
Right. To speak technically on that, you mainly use acrylics, correct?
I use acrylics, mainly acrylics, and then Indian ink, charcoal, and oil.
So there is a bit of oil in that as well.
Yeah.
How do you find going back? I don't have a big perspective on this in terms of like how people typically paint with oil paints, especially stuff that does take a while. But like painting on oils again, like once it's dried, in my experience, it doesn't look very nice.
Well, after doing like a second layer?
Yeah.
I found it really good.
I don't know if it's just my work that I don't like it on, but because I don't paint flat at all. My stuff is very thick application. So painting on top of that with more oil, personally, I just think looks wrong. And I'll show you something later on that I've done it on. And I think that's why I've not
then
done
do
it
another
again.
layer.
Right.
Just that might only be halfway through. Maybe you need at least another 3 layers. Like de Kooning, he will have his paintings in the studio for 2 years, and there'll be like, some of his paintings will have like half an inch thick of paint on it.
Yeah.
Because he's just gone over so many layers. And you never know. You just got to keep going. You might have, you never know. It could have been ruined, but it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right. It's just a painting.
Man, I just really haven't come to grips with that yet. I don't know why. I think...
Just don't cage yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think the satisfaction I got from painting was purely just getting a result like in a day, like quickly, within a couple of hours, doing a painting and done. Like I felt pretty shit this afternoon, boom, done.
Yeah.
Felt pretty good today, boom, done, sort of thing. So coming back to stuff, like I can't imagine doing anything else to this one here, for example. I just can't, I couldn't physically put any more paint on that.
Yeah.
I think it might just be a personal boundary. Like I don't necessarily think I need
maybe
to,
that's like your style. Like looking at that painting, like it's like maybe it doesn't need more. But like you won't know that until you really kind of go
actually do it. Yeah, that's true.
Because you can always bring it back. Your next painting, you can always bring it back. It's okay. It's not a lost cause.
So you and I are, I think, opposites in that regard in terms of like what because your paintings have a lot of meaning to them. Mine don't at all. To me, someone might see that and like we were saying, find some meaning in it. But personally, like I couldn't tell you what anything is about.
Yeah. Well, some of my paintings don't have any. I've done paintings just has no meaning.
Yeah, and not limited. Obviously,
of course.
Yeah.
But like that's okay because it's just like a visual interpretation. You just do how you feel and do what you want.
I think I just prefer the process more than the end result a lot of the time.
Yep.
Like I just like the painting so much.
Yeah, definitely.
And definitely like stop when I'm happy with the result.
What do you like listen to? What do you listen to when you paint? Like with like, do you listen to what do you listen to?
Podcast usually.
Oh,
yep.
You listen to podcasts. Okay.
Just any long run content. I was listening to music for a bit, but it kind of. I haven't really like figured out whether I'm enhanced by listening to anything or not, whether it's music or podcasting or whatever it is, to really know if it affects me or not. But I think when I initially was listening to music, and that usually puts me in a certain mood, but granted that could have been at a time when it was earlier on for me and I was getting quite frustrated with a lot of the stuff that I was doing, but I just feel like whenever I had music on, I didn't actually end up painting something I liked.
Yeah.
And I think...
What kind of music were you?
Well, at the time it would have been typical trap hip hop sort of stuff, and a bit of house music here and there. But I think what it was really doing was actually distracting me a wee bit because, number one, in a literal sense, it was distracting me because I had to like change song or, I like being immersed in the process. So taking me away, even for that second, doesn't completely diminish anything. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm still in the zone, so to speak. But yeah, just having to sort of figure out what it is that I wanted to listen to sort of took me away from the mood that I was potentially in to when I wanted to start painting, if that makes sense. I might have woken up feeling like I wanted to paint today, but started listening to music and then took me into a different mood, and I might not have had the same result. To take it to a really sort of deep side of things, I'm usually not such a literal person like that. But I just find with podcasts, it's just conversation. It's not really putting me in any mood. It's sort of just learning things or listening to stories or whatever. So it's just, I can still be on my own wavelength, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure.
What about yourself?
Man, I've tried everything. Like when I first started painting when I was in like high school, it was like just techno. And it was just like I'd be painting at night and just listen to like just heavy techno.
Sick.
And it's like and I'd just be like painting. And then after that I was, just listening to house. I went through a stage of like listen to just heavy trap, and that trap didn't really help me paint much. I don't really listen to trap when I paint. I always listen to like Beethoven or deep house.
Whoa. And
just like piano and like a lot of Hans Zimmer and just really spacey shit, man. Just like, because especially when you're painting like fine stuff, you just got to slow your heart rate down, and then you just got to, when you get in the zone and you listen to like Beethoven and Chopin and stuff, it's just like you're in a whole different world. And like that's what I usually listen to.
Where do you think the classical side of yours comes from? What do you think it is about?
It's weird, man. I've got a real
music
like
as well,
I'm so opposed. Like it's a war. Like I've got just like this crazy side, and then there's just like this ultra, just like weird mellow side. Like I was listening, just like just a crazy piano and just like.
Do your parents listen to that sort of stuff?
Nah.
You really discovered it on your own and decided
maybe my mum a little bit. Like definitely my mum a little bit, but like
I mean, obviously there's no real explanation to why you like something. You just like it, but it's just interesting. It's quite unique these days to have that.
I even went
feeling.
through a stage of listening to what's this guy called? He's like a busker and like somewhere overseas, but he does this. He like plays the guitar. And he has like a little, like, the little scented candlesticks. He has that in his guitar. He's like real long nails and like really long hair. And he does this song. It was like the Golden Dragon and stuff. And he was just like, it's like medieval like time. And I was just went through a stage of listening to that because like I feel like whatever you listen to, you kind of go into that whole space. So it was just like when I was listening to him, that was crazy. I can't even remember his name now. I've had a mind blank. But
come back to it.
Yeah, and I was like, when I was painting, I was like fully in like, I was imagining while I was painting, I was like imagining I was in like medieval times, like on the street, just like at night, and just like you kind of just, you flow. You just go into it, like when I'm painting, like sometimes I'm not even thinking about painting, I'm like imagining that I'm in a different world or in a different time. And that's like what I love about getting in the zone, because you can go anywhere. It's not about locking into like the strokes, but the strokes are just happening naturally. Like there's like a side of my brain that's doing that.
It's just automatic.
Just doing it. And then there's the other side that's just like completely locked into where the music takes me.
Shit. That's intense, man. I don't think I've ever been really like caught up in the physical sense of it, but never like mentally engaged that much with the painting before.
And I also love, have you heard, One O Tricks Point Never?
No.
He's crazy, man. Deep house. He does like he did the soundtrack for like Good Time, and he's done a few other soundtracks for a couple movies. But he's like extremely deep house, and that was one of his songs called Chrome Country inspired the Chrome Country painting that I did.
Right.
Because like I'd listen to it on repeat. Like a lot of songs, I'd listen to it on repeat, so I could just stay in that vibe. So I'd listen to a song on repeat for like 10 times. Just this Chrome Country one was just like deep house, and it was like. There was like choir in it, and it was like mixed with like deep house and stuff. So it's like, yeah, he's sick as well.
Fuck. Do you ever paint without listening to anything?
No,
Because you've been painting basically from your room, right?
Yeah.
You haven't had like a studio space.
No.
I quite actually like painting without anything on sometimes.
Yeah,
Sometimes
get the
I'm
vibe.
purely just painting, and that's it. And like, granted, in my situation, having a studio here in town, just having the window open sometimes is enough for me, just
Yeah.
to get that atmospheric street
Connect with the
noise
city,
coming
man.
in,
Connect with
and
the city.
just real raw
Yeah.
mentality towards it, which I quite enjoy a lot of the time as well. I'm usually listening to something, but there's definitely been occasions where I haven't been listening to anything, and that I think is probably when I get more immersed in it, because I'm really lost and focused on.
Yeah.
Lost and focused, kind of contradicting, but I guess focused on what I'm doing, you know.
Yeah.
And those, I couldn't tell you which ones I've painted in that particular scenario, but they're usually the ones that have come out a wee bit better. Yeah. Do you
Mate.
get quite frustrated at points?
Yeah, definitely, man.
Like angry?
yeah, 100%. Like, I'm kind of going towards oil now more because acrylic. Like, all the the more the crisp parts of the painting with the acrylic are at least 5 layers, and sometimes if I'm working on like a certain section and like the brush will drag the paint not the way I want it,
Right.
yeah, I just get really frustrated, and I'll actually start, like, if I'm working hard, like, I'll be sweating, like, just because I get like certain, some days you have bad days and some days it just flows,
Right.
But like, I get really frustrated sometimes. It's just not working the way I want it, and then I would literally just finish that coat and just drop it because I'm like, this isn't going well. Let that dry and then just go over the whole thing again.
So it's purely just how the paint moves.
Yeah,
between the
like,
two.
because I
That's-
use the acrylics I use aren't like good acrylics. They're pretty cheap because I can't afford like expensive acrylics.
Who
like,
can, man?
yeah, I know,
Jesus.
it's crazy, man.
let alone
So,
oils.
so yeah, just like, sometimes you get real frustrated if you're doing a fine piece of detail and then you work for like 5 minutes on this tiny little section, and then you do one stroke wrong and it just ruins the whole thing, and you have to go over that whole like little section again because of one blown stroke.
And
you
that was
just
happening a
messed
bit with
up.
the acrylics.
Yeah, well, like, not a lot, but like, yeah, it would definitely happen like a few times on a certain piece.
And I guess the drying time too, you don't have a lot of time to really fix anything that you've done in a shorter period of time. Is that right? I've pretty much never worked with acrylics. I don't really know.
It's all about layering. Like, at the end of the day, like with acrylics, you'd never do detail on the first layer because
Right.
you're just gonna get the bottom colors coming through. You might be, I might do a face or something that's over top of like a blue background, and if you start working detail on that on the first layer, then it's just it's a
blend,
disaster.
yeah.
You need to like start off with
Right.
like your thick colors. You just chuck the colors on, like you just blop it where that shade goes, the second layer, and then you start like finding like you might bring that color in. You might just like kind of fade that in there, but it's like big brush, just slop it in there.
Yeah.
You just got to get the color down, and then like third layer you start doing a bit finer, do another layer fine all over, and then let that dry, and then the fourth layer, then you start working in the high details, and then like the fifth layer you'll bring in the highlights, the low lights, and they're just like finishing details.
Yeah, that's interesting to hear.
And that's when I get frustrated if I do like detail or something too early,
Right.
or something, if in a layer too early, it's really kind of like easy to do.
Because you wanna get a result.
Yeah,
quickly sort
because
of
like
thing,
you
and
get lost
can see
in-
it already, and you
Yeah.
don't want to lose a thought. Yeah.
Like you get
Makes
lost
sense.
in it, and you're just like, okay, you need to go, wait, I'm actually doing this way too early. I'm detailing this way too
Right.
much, way too early.
Interesting. See, I have no perspective or insight into how paintings should actually be done in the traditional sense, because I don't actually have any skill when it comes to the technical side of painting, right? So painting something realistic, what makes an object look the way it does, etc., and how to actually apply the paint in the proper sense. Of really just sort of figured out the way I like doing it on my own, So hearing that is interesting to see how it's actually supposed to be done, and like how things could actually be implemented, or how reasons for me to actually learn how to do it properly, But I think it's just such a different process to hear,
Yeah, I think most people have like pretty much everyone's probably got a different process. I just like I wasn't taught my process. I just kind of naturally found it after practicing. And I think most people do have different processes. But this is just the way I found, and it's the way that works for me. You know, in the future I might find a different way of doing it, but right now that's like the only logical way I'm doing it, because it's what makes sense to me, and that's how it's working.
Do you think you're limited creatively by the space that you're painting in? Like, is it kind of uninspiring?
Yeah,
at points?
it's getting that way. I've been working in like my room with a little kitchen area for a while, and I'm just kind of over it. I need like a studio. I need a proper space where I can just walk around.
Step back from things.
And just walk around in a space that's not so full of like clothes and carpet, and it's pretty tight. But it's just like once I'll get a space. I really want to have like the paintings up on the wall, and have like not this tiny little like easel. Like this easel that I'm working, it's like pretty broken. I've got the big painting in there, but like when I get a space, I want to be able to have like the paintings up on the wall, like four right next to each other, and then work on them all at the same time. So I can just stand there and go, work on that one. Okay, that's done. Now let's work on this one.
That's a good workflow.
And have like 4 going at the same time.
Yeah, that'd be pretty.
Rather
crazy.
than like taking one off. Okay, that layer is done. Take it off, and then bring the other one in. It's just like you end up working too close, like visually too close to the painting.
For sure. Yeah, I guess it's what you want from a studio, is to have that creative freedom and space to move around and not be cramped. You want physical space as much as you want mental space.
Yeah, studio space, man. But we'll get there.
Same point about finding a space to exhibit. Like finding a space to work in. It's going to be another tricky process, I can imagine.
Yeah. We'll get there, because Nick James, he's got so many spaces, so he's just basically like talk to him. He's like, next year come talk to me, and we can, if you want a space, we can sort one out. So it's like, I'm not really worried about that right now. It's more about money. Yeah,
but absolutely.
Next year we'll see.
Enough,
We'll probably have maybe a big space, have a few people in there or something.
Yeah,
but we'll just see how it goes.
Yeah, so okay.
Even like try to find a flat that has like a spare room.
That'd be ideal.
And just like use that as a studio.
I'd love to have a studio where I lived. I feel like that'd be so much better. Like sometimes I hate the fact that I have to like make the walk here, which sounds ridiculous, but I'd much rather just have a spot in the place where I live, like even just a garage. Sometimes would be okay. I think that would be okay if it was a decent size. Just having the space at home, I just think has a certain dynamic to it as well.
Yeah, it is quite nice to just have a coffee and then
exactly. Have some brekkie, go out and stand in the stew for a bit.
You don't have to like change.
Yeah, exactly.
Stand there.
Yeah,
drink your coffee.
Right, should we have a quick breather? I need some fresh air.
Yeah, man. No worries.
Right. Yeah. So when did you take this trip again? That was a couple years ago, wasn't it?
This was after I went through a real rough patch. I kind of, because I'm like Christian, I'm a Christian that's my faith, and like I went through such a rough patch for like a few years, just with like all the party life and everything, etc.
Yeah.
The drinking and stuff. So like I just hit rock bottom basically, and then like I kind of came back to my roots, because like I went away from Christianity for like throughout school, and then throughout when I left school for like a couple years, and I just came back to it. Like I knew like I was so far down, like there's only one way, like I could just feel it, and then I basically just like disappeared for quite a while, and just like locked in to like prayer and stuff for like a few months, and then ended up like after a week after I got to this point where I was just so like I was so far out like of the bad shit that was going on. I was just like on the come up, just like mentally just like coming back and just like starting to get real healthy again. And I was like, I got to this point where I was like, all right, I need to start doing something now. Like I want to do something. And then like a week later, one of my good friends that was helping me out, Jeff Woodcock, he's starting up. So he's basically, it's called freeslaves.org. And so that's his website that he's like started up, and it's like a charity website. So it's like freeing slaves from Pakistan. And me and him are quite good friends. We've been quite good friends for quite a few years now. And he's basically like, we're going to Tahiti. We're going to do a mission trip to Tahiti, and you want to come? I was like, yep, let's do it. Like, I need to get out of this place. I need to start
Good
acting.
timing then, I suppose.
Yeah, and I was in such a strong mental state at that point. Like, I just had to get away from everyone, and I just like built myself back up through the Lord and just like prayer time and Bible and just got myself back in the game.
Yeah.
And went to Tahiti, and it was crazy. It was just like from that moment, I was just like, life's changed. Like, let's go to Tahiti. And so we went to Tahiti, and we ran around and stuff, and just like that was like, this is the beginning of just like what was to come. So I went to Tahiti, and we did like quite a few missions around Tahiti, just like kind of helping people out. And like we had like, there was like a big church gathering from like all around like the New Caledonia and stuff. So we got to like meet a lot of people and just like go around and like help families out that were in need. And we had a few links to a couple families that were quite like strong influences on like the people around them. So like we met with them and just like shared the word and like what's going on, like how you need to, or just like how to live life properly, because a lot of them are so just like uninformed on like just like basic living skills and just like basic health. So it's just like really good to be able to share our knowledge and share our love with them, and so they can from there it's like spread it on, because Tahiti's going through a real rough patch right now.
So I'll just pause you there. So I'm not geographically in tune. So Tahiti is whereabouts?
So Tahiti's in like, you've got the triangle, the Tahitian triangle. So it's like in the middle of kind of like nowhere, in the middle of the like out of New Caledonian off like the Cook Islands, kind of like right in the middle of that triangle, the Polynesian triangle.
Yeah. So are they their own like island, or are they attached to?
There's an island called Tahiti's their own island, and then they've got a little island off it, the sister island called Marea. But they're so like alone, and like their government policies are pretty cooked. Like, so like the tax is like super high on like importing goods, so like it's really tough for them to get like basic things like a fridge, for instance.
Right.
It's really hard to like import one in and like have it in your home. Like, it's really hard to like build up a good home with like all like modern stuff, because like importing goods is just like is so heavily taxed.
Yeah.
So they all just live in like basically like poverty. And it's just like, it's pretty hectic. Like, most people that go there for like a good holiday or stuff won't really see the dark side of it. But you know, they're really struggling.
Yeah. So you were there to sort of aid that.
Yeah.
Or provide advice, or what
just
what
like
service were you
love,
giving?
advice, and just really like meeting the needs of like the, you know, the kind of like the influences there that we're gonna from there take our influence and our, you know, advice and our love and really share that around to the people that need it.
Right.
And it's like about meeting people's needs. So after that trip, and that was like that little girl that was in the painting, she was blowing the bubbles. You know, that was a photo I took of her, that she was a family that we helped out. Yeah. And came back, sweet as, fueled up. And, you know, it was just like, I literally just got real stuck into the Christian life. And it was just like, it wasn't like, it's not the Christian life that many people know. Like, it's not, like a lot of people that our age and like kind of our generation sees Christianity as like, you know, going to church on a Sunday and being a good person, and like it's so different to like how we actually move, like true Christians move. It's not a boring lifestyle at all. It's actually like so much more adrenaline packed if you're living it right. It's not religious. It's not tying you down. But like
I've heard a lot about Christian groups doing things like that, you know.
Yeah, it's really tough to like, because there's so much false stuff going around right now, and it's just like there's a lot of false Christianity and everything. So it's like really tough, really difficult to move through that.
Sure.
So then we got back, and then like a lot of this stuff is just like all these experiences just like, you know, fuel my art, and it's just like kind of I can put that back into it. But
so is there a Christian community in Tahiti? Is that sort of why you guys are going there?
There's a small Christian community, but they're really kind of like uninformed and like on what's going on right now, and like how to move through their struggles. You know, so
but they know what they're a part of.
They know the problems that are going on, and they're not really well informed on like Christian, like a lot of their ideas are kind of like I don't want to say stale, but like they're pretty much stale.
Yeah.
And like
See what
they've
you're
kind
saying.
of got the wrong idea, so we're just bringing a new message, and that's like bringing it back to the first two commandments. It's like, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Like just bring it back to the basics, because those are the two main things that you can't live your life under so many rules. You've got to just strip it back to the basics and build your foundations just off love. And that's where happiness comes from, when you love your neighbour as yourself. And that's why I get so much happiness from when I see someone smiling at a painting that I've done, or just going for a coffee or something. When I feel that love making someone else happy makes me happy. And that's how humans work, by giving.
Absolutely.
Because you get so much reward by giving someone a gift. When you give someone a gift, it feels good. If you keep that gift, it doesn't feel as good as when you give someone a gift. It's just like, it's like a flutter.
Absolutely.
It feels
Yeah.
warm.
It's a gift in itself, isn't it? Yeah.
So that's like the whole point. That's why we're over there. We're just sharing that whole idea of just the like first few commandments, because people get so lost in all. There's so many rules in the Bible, but like a good father doesn't expect his son to obey all of the rules, and it's just too much to comprehend.
Yeah.
He expects us to just obey the first few and then move through life. And you start to build yourself. You start from small and you start to build. But a lot of Christians get so lost in in the whole Bible, and they get too like overwhelmed by it, and they go, it's got to be complex, it's got to be this, it's got to be this
entity.
Yeah, it's got to be like that. People be like, no, it's not complex enough. We've got to make it complex, but
Right.
it's not. They're taking away from the basic, the basic rule and the basic two first commandments, which is just like, what I said, like love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor yourself. And when you start there, and you don't like focus on, everything else, you just got to start there, and then you just like everything makes so much more sense, and it doesn't become difficult. You start there, and then you can move next to the next
Right.
level.
So basically, going back to the first steps. Yeah.
So,
That's interesting.
and then we came back, and then after a few months, I think it was about a year actually, and then we went. This was like the big mission. It was me, Jeff, and another friend, Miles from down in Invercargill, and Kendra from America. She was coming over to do a lot of the footage, and we're like, yeah, let's fire up a mission to Pakistan. We'll move through Thailand, and we'll go to Dubai. And this is quite a big mission, so we had to keep really low key. Like, this isn't like a big company. Like, it's just like, it's really small, and it's all legit. Like, it's not a big money sucker. Like a lot of big charities just drain your money, and like, it's bullshit. But so we're just like, okay, we got in contact with Emmanuel over in Pakistan. He's like a big church leader over there, and yeah, Pakistan's pretty cooked. So we went to Thailand first and met up with the young schools there. So Jeff basically organises everything. He's a genius, and he just like, I'm like his kind of wingman. But he, so like when we got to Thailand, we met up with a couple schools that were like kind of colleges, like small wee colleges in Thailand. And we just met with some of the young guys there and just like yarned. It was just like super chill, like, and just yarned and talked about things and just like kind of and helped them out, and just like, because they're so well uninformed over there, and it's just like nice to be able to bring the knowledge we have and share that with love.
Is English pretty common there in terms of?
Not so much in Thailand. It's pretty.
Were you limited to like the people you could actually talk to?
Yeah, it was.
Presuming you only speak English.
Yeah, I can only speak English, but it was kind of tough. We had like translators and stuff.
Sure.
But then we went to Pakistan, and most people in Pakistan can speak English, because like if you're like it's kind of compulsory if you're educated in Pakistan, that like the first language they learn is Pakistani, and then it's just like straight to English. So like most people speak English in Pakistan. So before we went to Pakistan, we stopped off in Dubai, because Dubai is cooked. Like, there's so much like crap going on there with right now. Like a lot of Pakistani people go to Dubai to get a good job.
Right.
They go to basically, and like this is like in a nutshell, they go to Dubai because they the life, it's got good jobs. They go there, they get a job. Expenses turn out to be way too high for them to live there, and then they get trapped because of the labor. Like they get stuck in these labor camps, so they end up just laboring for big construction companies and stuff, like just like standard trade. But they get like paid really low, and then that's just like only just enough for them to survive. So we had to go really under the radar. So it was like to get in contact with the guys strapped in the labor camps. So in Dubai, it was like all your text messages, everything is like watched. So like we had to be really careful. So we had to like move under the radar.
Like on your own? Did you have your own phone?
Yeah.
Right. So how does that happen?
So Dubai has like its own Wi-Fi, its own internet system.
Right.
It's all governed, and it's like all watched over like most countries, but it's extremely strict.
Right.
So you have to be super careful what you say, because like if you said something that's against the policy or against their religion in Dubai, or like and it could expose them in any way, then they'll be on you. Like you could be in danger. And so we just we met up with people, and then they could get us into the labour camps. We had to move at night.
Yep.
And we had like a few secret meetings in the labour camps, and we went into the rooms of these labour camps, and there's like one small room has like seven people living in that room, like 7 like grown men, all just like workers, just like can only just afford to live in there, and they can't get home. They can't get back to their family because it's too expensive, and they're just like trapped there. Because
So what
like
religion?
the big companies,
Yeah. Sorry.
Muslim.
Yeah. Right. So how does that compare to Christianity? Like, what is your purpose in these countries specifically? Is it this the free slaves organization?
Yeah, so free slaves is really about getting. So I'll get to that. Like in Pakistan, it's like there's like people in labor camps, like literally making bricks all day as like slaves. But I'll start from here in Dubai. So we got into the camps, and it was just like when I say camps, it was like in Pakistan it's proper camps, but in Dubai it's like just there's like the camps where people are living in like small houses with like overpopulated houses, like they're all bunked up and stuff. Yeah. So we just got to them, and like a lot of them were Christian guys, and we just like had like meals with them, like under the radar, like people wouldn't know. And we just shared with them and stuff, and like because the only thing we can do right now is just help them like emotionally, and we talk to a lot of the church like leaders and stuff, like how we kind of met them and just like shared with them and just kind of give them an insight of what's going, and just shared love. Like that's all we can do at this stage for Dubai, and that was really great because Jeffy's got a lot to talk about, and we kind of just like kind of bounce off each other in a way. And
so you're sort of just showing up unannounced, like they're not expecting you guys to be there. You're just
all like the pastors and stuff, they're ready for us. Like it's all kind of, some of it's pre-planned, but then a lot of it's just like Emmanuel, he was a big plug in Pakistan, so he like hooked us up with them. Okay. And then Pakistan, we went there, and this is where it gets super hectic. Right. Pakistan's so hectic. We were like we're like the only white people on the plane. Like it's crazy. Like it was just like you felt so. It was like when we first got to the gate at the airport. Like Jeffrey and I have to get first. I was like, yeah, I'll meet you at the gate. Got into the gate. It was like right at the end, like the gate, and then it's like as soon as you get like you walk down the gate. There's like a big airport, and then like you walk down the gate, and like I walked down, sat down, then like everyone's in the gate, like. Everyone's just like Pakistani, and I'm just like the only wee white guy, and there's like riots on the screen and shit. Everyone's like, like it was scary. Like people like looking at you, like and shit, and I'm just sitting there.
Can imagine.
Just had my headphones on. I was kind of like, that's when that was like, I was like, this is real. Like, this is hectic. I was frothing. Yeah. Because like this made me feel alive, and I was just like so bored of everything that's going on, like here, like drinking and stuff. This was just a whole new level to me, and I was just
completely different world. Yeah,
and so and then Jeff came. We got on the plane, got to land in Pakistan. This like real crappy small airport, international airport, and it's crappy and small. Get taken into this like little room, like because like we all had like our visas, but like we had visa on arrival because we're Kiwis. So, like, Kendra, she's from America, so she had to pre-plan all the visa stuff. But, like, we can get, like, visa on arrival.
Right,
Like, we have to set up for it, and so they're ready. But
Oh, okay. So it's obviously a lot more.
Yeah.
They don't see us, I guess,
Yeah.
as a threat as they perhaps do
Yeah.
with Americans.
But then like it kind of went wrong, and we had to like call up like our New Zealand like people from New Zealand to like give us access and stuff. And then we ended up landing. This is before we got into Pakistan. Land in Pakistan. We get taken into this like as soon as we land, we just get taken into this like room, real buzzy room, just like pretty much dripping. And it's just like crap as. And there's just like this dude sitting at the desk, nothing on the desk. He's sitting there smoking a dart in the middle of the airport. And it's just like, this is like, we get there at like 12 o'clock at night. And it was just like, it's such a massive day. We land there, we're just sitting in this like real, like it was like a movie, like you're just in this office. And this dude's just sitting there like smoking a dart. And he just doesn't say a word to us. We're just sitting there. And he's just like, what's wrong? And we're just like, we're trying to get a visa stuff. Visas on arrival sussed, and we got taken here. And he's just like, And he just like doesn't say anything. He just carries on smoking his dart, just scrolling on his phone, and like we're just sitting there for like 20 minutes.
Really?
And he just doesn't say anything. And then like he just gets up, puts his dart out, and then gets up and just like leaves. And then we just like sit there for like another half hour. We're like, what's going on? There's like soldiers in the next room, just like drinking and laughing, and we're like, oh shit, what's going on? This is pretty weird. And it's like me and Jeff, and they're just like come in like half an hour later, and he's just like, oh, here's your visas, like you're good.
So
and then we just, oh sweet, but he's like, yeah, it's all good.
had you handed him anything like at the start?
Yeah, we
Right,
like
so you'd taken the
we
stuff.
handed our
Yeah.
visas on arrival, but you know, they just like, and he came in, they had like printed off and like get a few things stamped, but
Sure.
they just didn't make it clear at all. It was
Right,
just weird
no
as.
instruction. Yeah.
Nothing. And then
Interesting.
he came there like, yeah, you guys are good.
Do
And
you-
we walk
do you-
out, there's no one in the airport, and like Emmanuel picks us up. It was like pouring down with the rain and stuff.
Yeah.
We get back. And then, yeah, like from that moment forward, the next like 2 weeks was just like super under the radar. We had to move really like smart. Like there's no muck ups, because like we get abducted, our organs are worth like 500K.
Shit.
Like just like, so we're a target. So all out, like we had to get a van that had like tinted windows, everything, and everywhere. We couldn't just like walk around on the street or anything. Like we would go somewhere, we would go there, we would stay there, and then when we leave, and we don't like go out in the street. We just straight into the van, and we had like personal security. Emmanuel sorted like personal security guards for us as well.
Because of the colour of your skin?
Yeah,
Is this what we're talking
There's
about?
like I
Yeah.
saw like 3 white people the whole time, and we went to Pakistan, like Islamabad, and like quite a few places, and like all like this main like capitals and stuff of
Yeah.
like Pakistan. Like saw like 3 white people the whole time, and we went so many places. The whole trip was just like, it was just intense. We barely got didn't get like a heap of sleep, because like we would get home like 10 o'clock at night, start like 7, and then like. But like when we get home at like 10 o'clock at night, you're just absolutely like wrecked. And then like after like a few minutes, we'd go somewhere else. So we'll have like probably like 5 hours sleep a night. But like it's hot and sweaty as well. So it's just
Can't
like,
really sleep anyway.
yeah, but like you wake up and you're just like, let's go. You're in such like your mindset when you're in like when we were in this kind of situation, your mindset and everything changes. Like you're in a different mode than you are like here in Dunedin. Like it's weird. Like I
Shit,
never
yeah.
felt that
Not
before.
even
Like
comparable.
I was just like, you were in tune.
Yeah.
You were just wired. Like everything was just like serious, but like we just had to move smart. But like I've never didn't understand that we would, as humans, could like flick into this like instinct of just like our bodies just knew. It was like weird. It was so weird. And we just flicked into this mode of just like focus. So like the first day was just like, boom, wake up 7, like didn't have any trouble. It was just like bang, bang. And then we went to like few churches here, and like met a few people and stuff, and like kind of just got around and just like starting to move. And then like, yeah, just like it just got more intense, more draining. But like the whole time you're just so focused. Your body's ruined, but your mind is just like you're ready to go. And like it was just like at a point it was just like me, Jeff stayed, and like this is like one of the sketchiest ones was like we were going to a church. Like there was everything was sketchy, but like one of the sketchiest ones was like it was like we've been a full day of meeting people and going to churches and like talking and stuff and like freeing slaves. So like basically all the camps all the slave camps that we're trying to free are basically people that get enslaved because they have medical bills to pay, and they take a loan out from the brick kilns, a loan out to pay for the medical bills, but then they have to pay the loan back, so they have to work for the brick kilns and make bricks all day.
Right.
And yeah, basically it's hectic as like there's guns, like they can't just run away, like there's like security and stuff, and like a mother's like in labour, she has like a day to have her kid, and then she has to get back on the bricks. As soon as the kid can walk, she has to start making bricks. So that most people live their whole lives in slavery, and then when they have their kids live their whole lives in slavery. So it's like hectic as. So like our whole goal was just to like get there, and we wanted to get, our main goal was just like scope out some places and just like scope out like a few like low key towns, so we could like talk to the people and like get slaves free. I think we got about 13 families free while we were over there.
So
yeah.
Where do you even start?
So Emmanuel has a contact with, like, he just contacts the brick kilns and we just buy them out basically. We just pay their loan, pay their debt.
So what is like the currency conversion? Like
For example, it's probably like $2,000 for a family.
Okay, New Zealand dollar. Yeah.
Yeah. And
right. So there had been a bit of money made from the online platform, I presume.
Yeah.
Is that what was set up?
Yeah. Well, like we have people that like donate and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that way they can't pay their loans off because the way it's set up, the interest rates are just like basically a trap. So they can never pay their loan up because they'll make bricks and they'll always raise the quota.
Right.
So it's just a trap. Like, it's just screwed.
Yeah.
So, you know, as soon as they get into slavery, like there's only like a couple people that have been able to meet the quota every time and get free. And that was like a real like one of the brick kilns was, you know, pretty generous, and like he managed. This is like one or two guys that managed to, but like everyone else is like, I think I can't remember the numbers. It's like 2 million, 20. I can't remember. It's like, yeah. But anyway.
So who's running the brick
millions
kilns, like, or who are they like associated with?
The brick kilns?
Yeah.
Brick kilns is a business. So there's I think there's like a couple million brick kilns in Pakistan, and they're just like it's just like a stand. So there's like people that aren't in there. There's people in there that are working that aren't paying off loans. They're just like casual workers. But yeah, they're just like, it's almost like shark loaning, you know.
Right.
It's like loan sharking.
Okay.
So it's just like, yeah, they just get stitched up.
Right.
And like the government's pretty like corrupt as well. So it's just
so that's, I was going to say I'm definitely a novice on this topic. So in terms of like who's overseeing how these brick kilns are run, like that's not something that is, you know, they're their own sort of entity. It's not a government-run business, or is it?
No, yeah, they're like their own entities, like big businessmen.
So no one's looking at that and going, "This is wrong. We need to stop this." Like the government's not stepping in. Like that's not a thing that happens yet.
No, because pretty much all of Pakistan is built off bricks.
Sure.
So like
it needs to
helps them.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. Okay.
So, but yeah, and then one of the sketchiest places we went to was like a church in the middle of the slums, and like this was it was quite late night. We'd just done a full day of going around. Jeff was tired as, and he was like, "No, I'm just going to stay out of this one." And it was kind of sketchy. Like Emmanuel didn't really know this church pastor really well, but he's like, "Yeah, we got to. You don't have to come if you don't want." But I was like, "No, let's go." And it was just like me and Miles who was with us, and like Jeff didn't come, and so like me and Miles went. It was like 2-hour drive night, like just like the most sketchy shit driving out there, and then. Give me a break. Yeah, so yeah, it was just like sketchy as we get out here, and we hit the slum and get out the van, and then like a couple of the private security guards meet us out there.
Yeah.
We get out the van, me and Miles and Manuel, and they're just like, "Yeah, let's go." We start like kind of like almost just like kind of jogging just through the slums, because the van can't go through the slums because the streets are so narrow. And it's just like all sewage and stuff. We were walking for probably like 15 minutes through the slums, and just like pitch black. Didn't know where we were going, except me and Manuel. Like we were just like, yeah, the church is through here. The church is like in the middle of the slum. It's like a big outdoor, like it's like a festival. But like we got there, and then we went into the back room, had like water and stuff, and then came out. And then like we would go to the front, like on the stage, like we were seated on like the stage and stuff, and like huge welcoming and stuff. And we're just like on alert the whole time, because, you know, you've got all of these Christians, but there's so many Muslims around that are ready to blow up the place. So like this was the most sketchy because like buildings like not buildings but like houses like crappy houses like all surrounded us in the middle of the slum. So like any one of them could have been like ready to go. So like but all these Christians like are so they've got nothing else but Christianity. They've got nothing else but the Lord and but love.
So there's
they
a lot of
they would
Christianity within
Yep.
the Muslim community, or like
well,
it's sort of
it's
half
there's
and half?
like 98% of Pakistan is Muslim.
Right.
So there's very little Christianity, but the ones that are
But it's still
they're on fire. Like
Yeah.
they would die for it. Like it's crazy. Like
Wow.
it's just intense. And so like they
So
don't
how do they
care.
feel about each other? How does a Muslim community feel about the Christianity?
The Muslim community wants to blow up all Christians.
Right.
Like that's like a lot of the churches we went to are right around the corner from it. Like one of the churches we went to is right around the corner from a church that just got blown up a week before we were there, and like just blew up the whole block. And we were driving past, and it was just like one of the walls had just been repaired. So we were like literally a block away from this church, and we were just like we you know it was, but we were there for a bigger purpose than life. Like so it was like it didn't phase us that much, because when you're in that zone, like you're not worried about what's going to happen, because the purpose is so much bigger than this.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where where the Lord wanted us to be. So it was pretty hectic, and it was just like this is what I wanted to. This is where like when I look back and when I first started, like I was just starting to like come back to Christianity. That's where I saw myself, and I was like, life is so much bigger than what we're doing right now in New Zealand. And I was like, giving my thing back is just me trying to find who I am and trying to find my own identity. But like finding that is you start from giving, and you start from helping people that are in need. And Pakistan is in huge need right now. So it was just like, yeah, let's go. So yeah, when we got back, like it's quite a long like story of the whole Pakistan. I won't go into it all. But basically when I got back, we were just like, me and Jeff were kind of like focused, like we want to get more vision. We want to get more vision on freeslaves.org. So I rebranded. We redid the logo, and now we're just like the next thing to do. We're going to make some T-shirts and stuff. But like he's working on like getting like a lot of people overseas, like in America. There's so many donors that are coming from America and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just going to try keep growing. The next thing we're trying to do is.
So this is something we can still visit now?
Yeah, you can.
It's
online.
Yeah. So it's freeslaves.org.
Yeah. And yeah, I want to talk about some of the other stuff, but most of it's like right now, what the future plans I probably won't talk about.
Yeah.
Just because like, yeah, that's just like, it's kind of undercover at the moment.
Sure. So do you think you achieved what you wanted to do?
Oh,
what you set out to
100%.
do? Yeah.
It
So
was a big
what
success.
sort of gave you the gratification? Like, had you sort of had anything firsthand that was like, right, I felt like I've done.
Yeah, I was
what
alive. Like
Yeah.
when I was coming back, I was like, this is life.
Yeah.
This is life. I'd never found myself.
So,
in
so
such
just in a literal sense, like what you obviously talking to these communities and these things. So you obviously said that you had freed some families from these things, but in terms of like on the religion side of things, in terms of like what you were doing as a Christian, do you think that was achieved, and what about that was achievement for you? Like was it just sort of gratification from others,
No,
or had you
it's
actually sort of put something into the community?
It's doing what the Lord's called, and it's doing the will of his will, as like, because if I'd it's doing his will, and it's just like that's what he called us to do, and that's just like loving others. And so like the whole point right now is just like when we were Jeff, like we were called to go there, and he was called to go there, and like I want to talk about it, but I'll just be here for so long to talk about, like, because it all stems back from like quite like different messages and stuff. But like long story short, like when we were there because the Lord wanted us to be there.
So that's what you mean when you say called?
Yeah. So we were called to be there at that point in that time, and now he's working with us, and like in us is just like to keep building and like keep connected with Pakistan, because New Zealand, we're so
isolated.
Well, we've got so much to give, and like, and not a lot of the rest of the world isn't really helping each other out, and we're just living in this like little free country, and we've just got so much to give, so we can help them out. We've got it, we can give, and it's just love. Like, it all stems back to love.
Yeah.
And like, you know, when you make someone else feel happy and you help another family out, like that's life. Like if you help, like we were helping out families like left, right, and centre. It was just amazing because that was what we were born to do, is to help each other out, you know. And that's like, you know, it's just like that was what it's all about.
Yeah.
And it's just like helping each other out, helping the people that are in need. You know, the Lord wanted us in that spot in that time, and that's why it went so well, because, you know, we listened. You know, we weren't naive, and we didn't dive in there with just like guns blazing. You know.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
You got to
Had a
move.
purpose.
You know, you got to move smart.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be foolish. And there's a difference between being foolish and wise.
Yeah,
wisdom,
absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, especially when you're going to a place like that, doing the things that you're doing, like you definitely can't go in full weight. You know, you've definitely got to plan out what it is that you're doing. Like it's a dangerous place.
But yeah, no, it is very dangerous. But it's not the end either. You know, and there's a big struggle right now. Is like Pakistan might be going, so like it's grey listed, means we can like transfer money into there, so we can give Emmanuel money and funds. But like if it gets blacklisted, Pakistan goes blacklisted, then means we can't like send anything in. So it might make it really tough for us to transfer money in, but we'll find a way.
Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, we're planning to go back there soon.
Do some more of the same.
Probably next year.
Yeah. Okay. To take.
But next year we want to build. We're gonna get a try and make a system up so we can get people out of slavery and then into a job.
Yeah.
So they don't come out of slavery and then just become, you know, and straight back into poverty. We want to set up we want to buy like a paddock, like a space that we can just make a little like a few workshops and stuff, just like give people jobs, just like good jobs so they can feed their families and stuff, because it's not also about getting families free, but it's also about putting them straight back into a working lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, where they can actually provide for their family and live properly. So it's
How again, very much a novice on Pakistan, but like in terms of, you know, putting these people into other jobs, what is something that is feasible or sort of ready available in terms of jobs?
So they usually like the male, like the father of the family, or like, you know, the older male would usually get a job. We'd usually put him into like an office or something. If we can find an office, or like just like janitoring, or just like little jobs around, like put them straight back into the church, because the church can provide. So give them jobs in the church. Or a lot of the males will open up a shop like for bike parts and stuff.
Oh, okay.
Because like everyone drives motorbikes,
Sure.
but the only motorbike they've got is like a little Yamaha, because
yeah.
Pakistan's got like a deal
Yeah.
with them where they can only have those bikes, so you just see millions of the same little bike.
Interesting.
So there's just like a lot, like every town, like we can like, a lot of the males will just like open up a little shop for sell bike parts and stuff, and they can sell anything, like just little like garments and stuff, like they'll make garments
Okay, cool.
and things.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I don't really know. I don't even have a picture of sort of what the city's like or what the community's like over there to sort of get a gauge on, like if you were to compare it to what it's like here.
And I saw more love over there in the communities than I do here.
Well, that's
and that was the craziest thing, because we live so isolated from one another. And like the love over there, they have nothing, but the love is just so strong. It was just crazy. It was like they love, like, you know, those little villages we went to, there's just so much strong love. Like,
and that'll be because of the place that they're in and what they're going through, you know, like that only really shines through struggle, you know. There's not a lot of love to give when you can have everything that you want, really. Like here you obviously can't have everything you want, but like we definitely have like a
world of entertainment,
different look on the world and what we're able to achieve and what is actually like really available to us and how free we really are, you know.
But so like and another thing is like their basic health and well-being skills is like super uneducated.
Right.
Like a lot of the babies will drink like just like bad water and like they get like a lot of diseases from it. So, and it's just like basic living. Like a lot of the mothers will feed like their babies rice and stuff, which is really bad to feed your baby, You
Oh,
don't
really?
start feeding your baby rice until a certain age.
Okay.
But like it's it's kind of just like teaching them how to provide it doesn't have to be expensive, but it's just like the right ways of like living. So like giving them those basic knowledge and basic skills, and that's like another big part of it, is just like giving basic knowledge, because they don't understand, they don't have it, they don't have education. So we're trying to get like a doctor, or like someone that's educated in that area. I've got a friend that's educated in that area, and I'm going to get him, and we're going to try suss him over there and just like give basic like medication and stuff. Like a lot of them, like you'll see people with a broken leg, but they don't ever get it put back in place, so it just heals like that and shit like that. So it's pretty crazy. But so that's like another huge thing, is just basic knowledge. So if we can feed them that basic, health and well-being, like just super basic cheap skills, then they can share with their friends, and it's just like it's the beginning of health.
Yeah.
And putting water pumps in as well, so fresh water pumps. And you don't guess how much it is to put a water pump in.
I've had figures I've seen in the past, and we're talking thousands of dollars.
To put a water pump in, like a fresh water pump that goes down to get fresh water, it costs like $250 US.
US dollars.
Super cheap.
Oh, right.
Like,
okay.
So cheap. And like not a lot of places have like fresh water. So Emmanuel's working right now with one of the young guys there, just like keep putting water pumps in as many places as we can.
Fuck, I thought you were going to say $250,000.
Nah.
Jesus. Okay. So
It's
like
how
you're
cheap.
saying it's super doable, obviously. Yeah. Shit. Okay. Yeah.
So that's like another project. It's just like Emmanuel's working on right now.
Yeah.
But no, it's main like, we're getting on the right track and stuff.
Absolutely, yeah. So where do your roots in Christianity stem from? Like, is your family religious, or is it faith you found on your own?
No, my whole family's Christian.
Yeah. So you're born into it, so to speak.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you say you've sort of come in and out of it, like you sort of
I've just so tough. It's just like just dealing with my two sides, like what I say with my art. I've got my, there's just two sides to my art. Like a lot of it's really like rough, and then there's like that crisp stuff. And I've always just got like these kind of two sides fighting. And this is kind of like come from my life. It's just like I've got my Christian side, which I'm like, I get heavily in, and then I've got like my party lifestyle, which I'm also like heavily into. So it's like so difficult because I'm young as well. So I just like love partying and shit. So it's like those are two just opposing forces, which are just completely different. So like even right now, like just kind of partying heaps, it's just like it's really just draining on me, because like it's just like it can be mentally tough and like physically tough as well. Just like trying to deal with that. So, but like
So it's not a question of whether the religion is right for you or not. It's just a question of what lifestyle you prefer.
And when people go like, "How are you Christian?" Like you do what you do. It's just like it's not about being. It's like that's being perfect is just not.
But what does that even mean?
Being perfect is just a goal that is unattainable. So like you just got to start by focusing on the good, focusing on what's right, and then you'll slowly come out of the mud. It's like, if I can put this in like a metaphor, so you've got a long piece of rope, and the whole piece of rope is in the mud, and you grab the head of the rope, and you want that rope to be out of the mud. But if you keep focusing on like the bad things in life, if you keep like dwelling on like the negatives, then you're just going to keep dragging the rope around in the dirty puddle. Right. But if you start by focusing on the good, that means you walk out of the puddle, but the rest of the rope is still in the mud. But you've got the head that's like, the head is like your focus, like what you dwell on, like the things you focus on in life. So you get that head out of the mud, and you start focusing on that, and you keep walking in that direction, just focusing on the good, then the rest of the rope will follow out of the mud. Mm-hmm. It might still be in the mud, but it'll follow. Yeah. Follow. So it's like your lifestyle and like your mental like health and like who you are as a person will follow what you focus on. Mm. But so like I'm only like, I'm turning 22 in a couple weeks. So it's just like I'm still young and I'm still like learning. So it's still pretty tough. Yeah. Especially with my genes. Like I'm a bit of a loose unit. So it's just like and I like doing things full pie as well. So when I'm a Christian, it's like full intense,
Yeah.
and then when I'm drinking, it's full intense.
Yeah, right.
So it's kind of like it's pretty tough, but like we'll get there, you know. Like, and that's what I like. My message to everyone is to you don't get happiness by focusing on yourself. Your happiness starts from making someone else happy. You know, this whole idea of, so yeah, start by making other people happy and start focusing on the good things, because like with like this whole idea, when people say they hit rock bottom and they're in the hole, people say, oh, you got to climb out, but that's like the most false thing you could ever offer someone, because you don't climb out of the hole. You help other people out, and then you just start floating to the top. Like that's how I found, and that's how anyone I've known that's gotten out of that place gets out. So like you don't actually climb out, because you can never climb out of the hole. But once you make other people feel happy, and you go for a coffee with someone as simple as like that, and like you make someone else feel happy, then that like makes you feel happy. Once you start like making the people around you feel good, and you just like stop focusing on yourself but focusing on like helping other people, then you start floating to the top. Like you just float out, like you look at yourself, oh, well, I'm happy now. So that's like what makes us human, because the only thing we've got to give is our love. You know,
So it seems
material
like-
items never make you happy.
Yeah, for sure. It seems like you sort of take a huge chunk of sort of what the Christian belief is and sort of use it. And I mean, it's hard for me to sort of really understand from an outside perspective of what like a real Christian is. So in terms of like, you sort of take a lot of the values from that and sort of live life based on that. Like, is your belief in God pretty heavy? Like you're definitely, that's definitely how how you've been taught and what you know to be true. But that's obviously a big, like what a lot of what you're doing is sort of getting outlooks on life from the religion and sort of using that in a way of, it's hard for me to, I'm just trying to sort of understand it.
Yeah.
Obviously not a religious person, trying to understand what it is that
like-
about the religion that sort of grasps you, I suppose.
Like
But
it's pretty hard to like talk about it in like a small,
because I haven't
time.
read,
Like it takes months.
Oh, 100%.
And like and like it's you
Wouldn't
start
expect you
from
to
an
put it in a
infant, you know,
nutshell.
but
Yeah.
like basically I've grown up. My Christian is that's who I am, and that's like, of course I've gone away from that. But back to what you said, like my values as a Christian are all based on the Bible and based on the Lord. So it's just like that's why like when I fail and when I'm not doing the things that, you know, in brackets, you know, and you know what I should be doing, it's not because I'm doing it wrong. It's because I'm just still young and I'm still learning the ropes. So how can I put this? It's like you know, when you're starting out with something, you don't dive into the deep end straight away. You don't dive into the complexity of something straight away. You start from the beginning. You start from the small steps. When you build your house,
to do it right.
Yeah, you build the foundation first. You build that concrete slab. You build the foundation first, and then you start building your house. And that's like another thing is it's like a lot of people kind of dive into the complexity and get so overwhelmed of the complexity of the Bible. But you don't start there. You start from like the first two commandments, which is everyone's overlooking. You know, if you focus on those two commandments, then everything else will just fall into place. But you got to start focusing on those two commandments and focusing on them, because, like I said with the rope, you start focusing on the good and the focus on what you should be focusing on. Then you start to grow. You build your foundations first, and then you start build your house. And when I've been through so many tough times, it's just like the best thing is just like you focus on the end. Like, I feel like sometimes I go like, oh man, I should be this, I should be that. But it's like that's the full like wrong way of thinking. You've just got to start small and start focusing on love and focusing on the basics.
Yeah.
Because like the basics, in the full picture and the end goal, the basics is what governs everything. Because like once you start focusing on like if you're loving your neighbor as yourself and you're loving with the Lord, you're loving the Lord with your whole mind, soul, and strength, then everything else just falls into place.
Mm.
And of course, that's so difficult to do. But at the same time, it's super easy to do, because like you can easily love someone, you know. And when you're loving someone, you're loving, you know, the Lord, because the Lord lives in everyone. And it's really complex, man. I just like it's tough for me to talk on right now over like a
Especially,
podcast.
I understand.
Just like,
I wouldn't expect you to explain it all to me. And it's such a vast thing. And I suppose, like, you're probably one of the first like real Christians that I've actually spoken to.
Mm.
So for me, it's just trying to get sort of a grasp on how you sort of see the world, you know. And I guess I want to sort of throw something at you, and you can say what you like. But how does science play a role in your life at all?
So
And I'm not trying to say like, you know, nothing's true. You believe what you believe,
Yeah,
and I
believe in
respect
science.
that, and I understand that.
So science is the how. Look at it like this. Science is the how, and the scriptures is the why.
So what are the scriptures?
So the Bible.
Yeah.
So the science, when I say the science is the why, so the science is the how and the scriptures are the how, the why.
Yep.
So the science tells us how everything's happened, like why the sky is blue. How does the plant become like that? Science tells us how everything is, you know, like, you know, why the grass is green, for instance. Like, let's keep it simple. And then the scriptures is the why. Why is it like? Why is the sky blue? You know, because the Lord made things to be beautiful.
Right.
And he tells us why, and the science tells us how. Like my quite good friend Robin Taylor, he's a doctor in Edinburgh, and yeah, he's like a full Christian, but he's also like a pretty heavy scientist as well. But it's just like separating those two and understanding where they sit, because the science is the how.
Mm.
How did that happen? You know, that's what science is. It's like how does that happen?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? It always comes to a point where it's like things are the way that they
There's
are.
no why.
Yeah.
You know?
They just are. They just are that way.
And that's
That
what
makes
science
sense.
tells us. You know, and then, yeah, it's just like it's...
Have you
Because
ever...
if there was no Lord, man, then we'd just be a sack of chemicals hitting another sack of chemicals. Why is that wrong?
Mm.
Why is that sack of chemicals blowing up that other sack of chemicals wrong? Well, it's not, because it's science, but it is wrong because we've grown up knowing what's good and bad, because it all stems from the scriptures.
Mm.
Anything we know that's good and bad, that all comes from the scriptures. Like me shooting you right now wouldn't be bad in the eyes of science, because it's just a sack of chemicals blowing up another sack of chemicals. Why is that bad? And why is that bad? Because we know that's bad, because the Lord said that's bad, and He's told us what's good. So like everything we know is coming from the Bible.
Do you think consciousness has stemmed from the Lord? Like,
He's given
do you
us
think...
He's given us consciousness. He's given us free will, so we can make our own decisions.
So
we can because that's you know, what's the point if we didn't have free will? You know.
yeah, that's something I think about a lot, is what is actually in us? Why is it that we as humans have come to be a conscious being in the way that we are? You know, what is it that has actually stemmed that? And like you say, like there's probably a scientific explanation to that, but there's got to have been something that has actually gotten that. Yeah,
there's a designer
That's
for
interesting.
everything. You know.
Yeah, it's so interesting living my whole life knowing the things that I know, believing the things that I believe, and then actually having an insight from someone like yourself, because my view on religion has always been an outside perspective, or I've always based opinions on my own terms based on things that I've learned and known to be true. And obviously, like, I think what is so hard to have a discussion, so what is so hard in a discussion where it's religion against religion, I don't know if this is something you've experienced on your own, but being taught something from birth, believing in something from birth, from two different lifestyles, it's just batting heads all day. You can't ever take someone away from something that they know to be true their whole life, you know?
Yeah.
It's just like whether someone's right or wrong, you can't say, like, if you've gone your whole life believing this one thing or knowing this one thing to be true.
Yeah, and I'm not saying like all the other religions are wrong, because they're all correct.
No, and I was going to ask you about that.
Well, not correct, but they all exist.
Yeah.
But it's where they stem from, and like, you know, I'll probably offend a few people here, but like, you know, you gotta understand where a lot of religions will stem from, you know. And I don't believe in, like, I hate religion, but Christianity isn't religion because it's the truth, and it's the truth.
So
and
what
I
is
believe
it?
in truth.
What is it
because
about?
I don't believe in doing something. I don't believe in believing in something because it's good. It feels, you know, it's a choice. I just want to believe in the truth. I want to know what the truth is, and I found the truth. And like, I was born through Christianity, but I've also gone and had a look at everything else and other religions. Why was that better than this one? Why am I a Christian? Why am I not a Muslim? And like, but I've looked at all of them and just been like, well, like, this is the truth. It's, you know, there's no holes in the Bible. There's no holes. It's all it's straight facts. And it makes so much sense. It makes so much sense. Like, there's holes in everything else. And it's all most of it's super poorly written as well. But like, you won't be able to find one hole in the Bible.
It's not something I've ever read, and quite frankly, it's hard for me to interpret. You know, yeah, from an outside perspective. Again, I keep using that term. I hope that's appropriate. But you know, reading the Bible as someone that's not a Christian is quite hard to really understand. Is it sort of something that makes sense to you because you have been a Christian, or do you sort of have to make your own sense of it? Like, have you sort of read the Bible and it just rings true to you, or is it like that's sort of what's taught through the faith?
It's years of studying it and just going like and asking questions and asking questions and asking questions and finding the match and finding the truth in it. It's all just perfect, you know. And that's like the beauty of it, because like, if you read the Bible, you'll always feel enlightened. And that's the crazy thing. Like, if you have any non-Christian picks up the Bible and starts reading it, they'll always feel better. You could read one page of the Bible and feel like good. And that's also another crazy thing about it, because it's so beautifully written. And it's just like, there's just no other possible answer. It's just all there. Everything there makes so much sense.
How did you get through, like, because obviously through school, I don't know about in your school, but in my school, like, it's not something that's taught.
No.
Was it a struggle for you? Like,
I didn't really care. Through school, I knew I was always a Christian, but I didn't really practice it like that much. But I knew, like, in science and stuff, I love science and stuff, but like, it was never taught, but it was never like an issue. There was a couple conversations that came up. You know, the teacher would be like, "Nah, you know, like this." You know, that would go against Christianity, but I wouldn't really say anything, because you'd end up in an endless debate with a science teacher. It's not the best thing to do.
And also, if there's no one else on that belief in the class as well, you don't want to be that one kid.
And my knowledge was so small of the Bible at that point, so there's no point in me getting into an argument when my knowledge is still really like light. But so like, but I didn't really like care that much through school. I knew who I was, but then I lost myself. So I went,
for sure. It's fascinating to me, man.
I dropped everything. Went full fucking.
Yeah, that's so crazy. And like I say, I've never really spoken to someone of that belief, you know, and it's just hard to sort of analyze it. Like, to get a real understanding of it from someone like you, who's I'm not sure the point I'm trying to make, but it's just so fascinating to talk to you about this stuff, because for someone that doesn't really have much of a view on religion, I think it's so important to, whether you believe something or not, to understand why people are why they believe in what they
like
believe.
That big painting that I had, that the ponder with the apples. That whole painting was about that, and it's
Right.
just like that painting had like David. He was like staring off, and it was like, and there's the fruit there, and it had ponder. That whole painting was based on our young generation and our people, like all the youngins. Like no one really ponders life that much. No one really like ponders and thinks about, what if this is real? What is the fruit of life? Where do I find fulfillment? And that was like, that painting was just about pondering the fruit of life and what is fulfilling. And when I say fruit, I mean what makes us who we are, and how do we live life? If the fruit of life is like, of course, money is, and everything that we do, like material items and stuff, it's not fruitful. It's not, doesn't give back to anyone. It doesn't make anyone feel fulfilled. So it was just like that painting, it was what you're saying. It's just like, it's just thinking about those kinds of things, and pondering on and keeping your mind open and asking questions about everything,
Fuck, man, that's really fascinating stuff. I mean, like, really what I've sort of got from you in this conversation, your perspective on everything, is just how to look at life differently.
Yeah.
And I think that's what religion gives a lot of people, is a way to look at life in a way that makes sense, because it is such a vast thing to try and understand. You have to give people the right to be able to believe what they believe.
Exactly.
It just, you can't.
And you can't force it on anyone as
Exactly.
well.
Like, I don't even know what I believe anymore, to be honest, man, because like I've typically gone my life not believing in God, we'll say God. But, I'm going to go through my whole life not knowing the truth. Like, there's no real way to really
you
answer.
don't know
like,
that. So
Right.
you might find yourself and you might ask that question, and then you might go, actually, like this. You might start connecting the dots. Because like, you don't want to say, oh, I'll go through life not never understanding, because you might find it next week.
So
you never know.
you believe that. How do I put this? So like, when you say you read the Bible and you see it as factual, you believe that everything, there's no holes in it, it's factual. That's your. How do I ask this question? You believe, yeah, okay. So like, I don't know how to ask this question. I've lost
I'm
it.
trying to think about your question.
It's just hard for, I guess, and it goes back to my point before about like just
I believe in this. Like, this is my foundation.
just understanding
Yeah.
it, just
Yeah.
understanding someone's perspective on it and why they believe.
And all of this is just the ice. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, exactly. Because you're telling me things that I have never really been told before, or like I have been told and know about. But to have your perspective and viewpoint on it is something that I haven't experienced before. So I guess this is just my reaction to that and trying to sort of grasp.
Just like, I think the
your
best
viewpoint.
way you can grasp it is, it all stems back to love. And everything
And it makes
stems
sense, man.
back to love.
Makes sense.
Because what's the only thing that makes us as humans fulfilled and
Exactly.
happy is giving love and being loved. Money doesn't make you happy. Material items don't make you happy. The only thing, if we had
believe that.
nothing, the only thing we had was our hearts.
Exactly.
The only thing that
And
makes us
that's
happy is
exactly
love.
it, man. And obviously
It's
that's why you're
friendship.
going to like Pakistan and stuff, because they don't have those things.
Yeah.
They only have the love.
Yeah, they've just got love, and it's just crazy strong because it's all they've got. They don't have all this entertainment. That's, we sucked away into this entertainment world, and that's why everyone's so depressed, because they don't know what's real, and they've been taught through school their whole lives that they've got to make themselves happy and do what, and like do what makes you happy. That whole thing is like, do what makes you happy, but people don't understand how to make themselves happy. They think by making it in life and making money or something, getting a good job and stuff makes you happy, but like, it's just that it might be short-term happiness. There's definitely short-term happiness, but in the long run, people, like so many young people, are struggling to be fulfilled and struggling to be happy because they're just looking in the wrong direction. They've been told their whole life through school, like a lot of like business, go do whatever you can inside the law, and like make money and do what makes you happy, but like people don't know how to make themselves happy.
Well, Silas,
So
you've
yeah,
been doing some good things, man. This has been a very eye-opening recording that we've done here. Like, I really appreciate you
Yeah, I
taking
feel it's
your
just
time
like,
to come on, man.
I'm not like trying to press anyone.
No,
or anything.
no, dude,
And, like,
definitely not.
I just think like
I don't think you'd be doing that. So it's
like,
just
I
so
think it's
interesting.
good to like, I think it's good to just like talk about this thing.
Absolutely.
Because this is like something so many people our age are thinking about, and so many people our age want to understand. I think understand more of.
That's the
And
thing. Like,
there's so many young guys out there, man, and young girls, and just our young generation that just like, just want to yarn about like this kind of thing, because like, why not? Like,
Exactly.
what else is there? It's,
and
it's just like other
aside
than
from what
drugs.
anyone believes in, like those core values are translatable to anyone at any time. Everyone knows that to be true.
Yeah.
Well,
And it's like
it seems
another
that way.
thing is like it's not like a lot of Christians like real traditional,
Mm.
and like, there's this traditional, like there's a bit like you don't have to be traditional. Like this isn't about being traditional. This isn't about being old school.
Mm.
This is about taking the core values of what is good and taking it into us, because we live in a completely different world. Our generation is just, this is 2020. We live in a digital world.
Mm.
We're so lost in like entertainment. So it's just like, taking some core values from what makes people happy, and and taking core values from the Bible that is just so important for us to keep.
Absolutely.
But like not a lot of people understand like some of just like the basic values to really like bring happiness. Like one of the basic values like that made me so much happier was appreciating the little things in life. Like just having a coffee in the morning. Like once you can understand like and actually be able to appreciate just that coffee in the morning, that you can sit there in the sun and have a coffee. Like once you actually appreciate that and appreciate those little things, you'll find yourself just like so much more happy.
Absolutely, yeah, man. Well, you've definitely had an eye-opening experience, and I can see why you believe those things you do, and I definitely believe most of that as well, man. And it's so interesting to hear your insight. Quite eye-opening stuff, to be really honest. I'm quite moved by a lot of it, to be quite fair. But look, I think we've yacked on for a decent amount of time, so I appreciate you coming on, man. This has been
good
really
fun.
fun. It's good to catch up with you,
Couple beers,
regardless.
mate.
Yeah, fuck, that's all it's about, isn't it?
Yeah, man. Have a couple
So-
beers, have a couple darts, whatever.
Absolutely. All right, well, we'll
Yeah.
wrap it up for the people listening, and hopefully see you on again in the future. Eh?
Yeah, cheers.
All right.
It's been a pleasure.
Bye, everyone.
Peace.
Home audio entertainment.
9016 Radio.
The show for artists of all kinds.
Sit down and relax. Enjoy the music.